Hey, Math Ninjas, what's up? We're talking percent proportions here. And the first thing you want to get down into your journal is this right here. This is like a little formula that we're going to use for figuring out these types of problems. And it's like saying 3 out of 4 is 75%, right? So 3, the part, out of 4, the whole, is equal to 75 over 100. 3 out of 4 is 75%, right? So go ahead, get that in your journal. I'm going to erase it right now to do some workspace, but you can always rewind and rewatch your Edpuzzles. So here we've got what percent, like we're trying to figure out the percent. So already I know what percent of 15, what percent of 15, part of 15, is 12? So you're using these sentences to put the values into that part to whole percent of 100 situation so that you can solve them. If the first time you read it, you're like, what? Then reread it and reread it and reread it. Okay, so we're trying to solve the missing value. We'll use X. What percent of 12 is 15? And now we're into those proportions we've been working with. We need to solve this like we've been doing this year. So to get X alone, it's being divided by 100. I got to multiply it by 100. I need to do that to both sides also, as we've been doing this year. Now on this side, we're just multiplying. There's not an equal sign. You're allowed to cross reduce. I'm going to do that. And then I'll rewrite this to the next step. So this is now X is equal to 1200 divided by 15. And you could take your time. I know some of you guys are pretty fond of your long division. 15 into 120 would be 8, but it's 1,200. So X is equal to 80. If you don't believe me, please check it out, either with long division or a calculator. So then we would say, what percent of 15 is 12? 12 is 80%. Right? 12 is 80% of 15. So the final thing we could write is 80 out of 100 is equal to 12 out of 15. This is true. And then from our work yesterday with conversions, 80 out of 100 is 0.8, and it is also 80%. Okay? So all of these things are true. You guys can read that, right? Okay, so that is one of our problems. What percent of 15 is 12? And we're going to do 2 more. For this one, it's going to be what number of 0.5% is what number is 0.5% of 200? Is that all on the screen? Yes, it is. So what number of all right, let's try this again. Got all my little words backwards. Okay, what number is 0.5% of 200? And even me misplacing that is and of, right? So again, rereading the words really carefully, super important. What number is 0.5% of 200? So let's figure this out. So we know the percents is going to be 0.5% of 100, right? 0.5%. So we know this is true. What number is 0.5% of 200? So we're doing it of 200, and we want to know this. What is that number? What number is 0.5% of 200? 0.5, question mark of 100. Let's make it an x so we can solve for it. Okay. So trickiest part, getting this into an equation that's true, a proportion that's true. And now we're going to solve this to find the number. Same thing. We're going to multiply to get x to be 1x. We're going to multiply to get this to be x alone. I got to multiply both sides by 200. Again, same thing here. We're all on one side of the equation, multiplying two fractions together. 200 and 200 can reduce, doing that cross reduction. We want to do that. It's a little simpler. And then also, this is pretty convenient too, cross reducing on this side, 2 and 1. So this just got pretty simple as far as this math part right here, because we're doing 2 times 0.5 is equal to x, and half of 2 is 1, so x is 1. And to go back to our original thing, we wanted to know what number is 0.05% of 200. It's 1, and that makes sense. 1% of 100 is 1. 0.5% of 200 is 1. All right. Great. Let's look at our third example. And so we're going to see how else can we move these wordings around to find a missing value. In this case, it's 150% of what? So 150% right there is, we know two of our values, of what number? So that's what we're trying to find out. What number is 30? So what do we know? We know 150%. So 150 of 100 is proportional to what of what number is 30? So the 30 is the numerator here. The denominator is the 100. 150% of what number is 30? The number we are trying to find is going to be 30 is going to be 150% of that number. Again, rereading it, getting it clear in your brain, making sense out of it. Once you have this step, rereading it again, do all those values feel right? Sound right? Are they logical? Yes. Cool. So here we're at this step. One of the strategies we used last time or that we talked about was cross products. When you're solving proportions, there is this method. We looked at it last week. It does work. It's an algorithm. It's true. And we can do cross products, 30 times 100, 150 times x. So we could say with these cross products, boom, that 150x is equal to 3,000. Right away, just in my brain, I'm thinking divide both things by 10 to make the numbers a little bit more manageable. 15x is equal to 300. So 15, lost my x there. 15 goes, so now I'm going to divide both sides by 15. So 15 divided by 15, of course, is the 1. 300 divided by 15, 30 divided by 15 is 2, and then that extra 0 gives me x is equal to 20. And does that make sense right here? 150 of 100 is 30 to 20 as a proportion. Yes, that makes sense. And you could even see that scale factor of 5. 30 times 5 is 150. 20 times 5 is 100. So go back and check the work. It checks out. All right, these problems are kind of cool little puzzles to figure out. I've got some practice problems here that I wrote down. So the first one is, what percent of 5 is 3? And then what number is 80% of 60? And 0.1%, so less than 1%, 1/10 of a percent of what number is 4? Okay, so mess around with that and we'll come back to it and work on those together on later in the week.